Hey everyone, welcome to Loading Please Wait, episode 3. This is part 1 of a 2-part episode, as it was over an hour, so I went ahead and split it up. This first part we will be talking about 4 or so different subjects, so please stay tuned and enjoy. Alright, hey everybody, we're back with another episode of Loading Please Wait. I'm with my esteemed guests, Kino Monster and Vandrad. If you guys want to say hello.
I'm esteemed by whom?
Wow, that's never described me before.
Should I said Kilson's fan club?
Or people that Joppa loves.
There you go. All
No
right.
comment.
So tonight or today or this show, I should say, we have several topics we're going to talk about. The last one we did, we talked about tanks and then healers and whatnot. We're actually going to change the subjects and actually try to talk about a little bit more recent things that have been going on with the game, with VR, and everything in between. And tonight, our first subject, it's kind of a hot one. I put a post up the other night about it, and it's really just the main abandonment. I kind of feel, I know a lot of in the community, especially from the responses I've gotten about the forums, the website, Instagram, whatever. Basically, no updates. The website was promised in 2019. We haven't seen it. We haven't heard about it other than the person they hired failed. So, Kino, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
I just think it's par for the course so far, and there's just been such a long pattern of behavior from them when it comes to their overall social media presence that I've kind of just stopped.
It's sad that they've ignored, the website and for so long that I can't understand the purpose of it. What purpose does it serve to not keep people informed or give them a centralized location to look up information about the game? How does it harm VR to keep it updated?
It's super trivial too. I mean, this is something that anybody with, you don't need any coding experience to update copy and publish it through their whatever content management service they have. This is clicking here and there and pasting in an image and uploading some text. It's trivial, absolutely trivial for them to do, and they don't do it, and it's really head scratching.
If they're doing all of these, these streams every 2 weeks, and they've had all these other dev streams in the past. They're clearly showing, in-game footage. All you've got to do is during the process of that, take a couple screenshots and then, post them when you're done. And that would go such a long way to showing people what the game actually looks like. I mean, right now they've got 10 pictures from all of 2019. And before that, you've got, I think, 7 pictures from 2017.
Yeah, for the main post, or point I should say, in my post that I wanted to get across was this is an online game, and they have like absolutely atrocious online presence.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious if it weren't something I cared strongly about. That I want it to succeed, and to see them missing such a huge opportunity is really concerning.
I think I had mentioned it somewhere. I said that for a game that is crowd-funded, you are relying upon the community to give money to get this game out the door. You're also relying upon that same community to advertise to everybody else to get them interested in it. And when people say, hey, where can I go to find out more information? I kind of draw a blank because I think about shit, nothing on the website's really updated. It's not accurate. It's not pertinent anymore. Um, and because I don't necessarily go to, Facebook and, Reddit and all that other stuff like that, I can't really tell people anything good about where to go. And so they go, well, should I be donating money? No.
I mean, you send somebody to the website and they're like, "Oh, hey, this living codex description sounds pretty cool," and then you have to tell them, "Well, that's not how it works anymore." Or, "Hey, the Scar have cool graphics, and you have to say, oh well, that's not what they look like anymore. Hey,
And then they ask the question, well, what do they look like? Oh, well, we can't show you that.
Yep. Or hey, this warrior ability looks pretty cool. You have to say, oh well, that's not how that works either.
Yep, exactly. Like another example of that is how we were told they decided the Ranger class wasn't fun to play as it was, which is how it says on the class page, but they're doing a complete revamp. So you think they're like, hey, here's an opportunity for us to tell you how we're going to change the class, and they could put that up there, but no, that's it. We're just left with we don't have any idea what the class is going to be like.
I mean, the front page, it's got the header at the top with your races and classes. It still has like the news section, like you said, is from October, and it still has the store, the link to the store, which is a dead page.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on the store.
You can literally open up your developer tools and whatever browser you're using, select that store element, hit delete, and delete the HTML out of your own browser because it's local. It's in your browser locally, and that store button goes away. That's how freaking trivial it is. And of course, they'd have to deploy it and all that. But like deleting that little div there with a hyperlink in it it took me 5 clicks.
Well, they are focused on in-game development right now, so they have their plates full.
Right, but see, that's developers. They've got to have somebody there whose job it is to manage the community. Oh wait, they do have somebody there whose job it is to manage the community. Wouldn't something like this fall under that person's, job responsibilities? Now, they may not be able to actually do the updates themselves. They would probably have to get somebody else to do it. But the point is, that should be happening. That should be an ongoing process and not ignored.
Yeah,
And
basically
so
anyone who has access to it.
It's a great disservice to the company. It's a great disservice to the game. It does not put any of this stuff in a good light, and all it does is hurts the future potential of this game.
If you're somebody who's interested in an old school fantasy based MMO and you might want to donate, or hell, you're an angel investor and you have $500,000 you're looking to make some money off of, and you come to this website, what are you going to think? You're going to think, like you said, Fragile, that the game is dead, or that this is complete amateur hour when you go through the website and the forums, and oh my God, don't get me started on the forums.
Yep, totally. All right, before we move on from this subject, there is a little announcement I'd like to make, and that was brought to my attention that it could ruffle some feathers, and that is our new No White Knights logo on the top right of the page. And all I want to say about it is this just there to establish that we're passionate about the game. We're going to say both sides of it, pros and cons. We're not trying to be black knights at all in here, but we're not going to, shovel bullshit all day long. Anyway, our next subject is climbing, and this was shown off all in the new Code Carnage stream, which new is December or whatever, and I was absolutely blown away with the climbing system. I thought that I wouldn't care about it, wouldn't be impressed by it. It was going to be a hindrance to the game, but it does look phenomenal. I don't know if it's going to really be fun. I'm not sure. What do you think, Van?
I think it's great. And just going back to your point of, no white lights and no white knights, and we're not here to be, black knights. This is one of those things where I go, yes, they did something really, really good. This has some incredible potential to take this game off of the typical two-dimensional plane that most MMOs exist in and move it into the third dimension. You're gonna have to think about literally looking around in all directions to figure out where you may want to go. If you look at that last stream, there were times where Ko just walked around a corner and he went, whoa, come back here, hold on, look over here. And he looks over there and goes, oh, I totally missed that. Imagine the possibilities of going through a dungeon, a large one, like Amberfey, and thinking you've been everywhere, and then somebody goes, hey, did you go over here? I didn't even know that existed. Oh yeah, you go around this one corner, go past this rock, look up, and there's a little tiny climbing wall. That's awesome.
Yeah, the fact that the one of the coders didn't even know that little ledge there with the two NPCs, he had no idea, and he codes on the game.
I think it's a cool evolution. I always go back to the opportunity cost, but I know that the game mechanic of climbing in general had to evolve. Like in EverQuest, you could just basically run up any surface, no matter how steep, and that was kind of silly. So this is definitely an improvement on that. I would say that, while the three-dimensional aspect of it has potential, at the end of the day, what they still need here is content. Content is king. It doesn't matter if it's cool in 3D and makes you think about where you haven't been or where you can go. If there's nothing meaningful there, once you do find that cool little ledge you can jump up and go look down, if there's nothing up there of meaning, then this is all for naught.
Yeah, you are right. If you've got something that takes you somewhere, but then there's nothing there afterwards, what was the point of having it there in the first place?
Yeah, in a vacuum, this is fine. It seems like they executed it well. But again, the opportunity cost is there's so many features they keep talking about, but what really could potentially hold this game back, and I think is world building, art assets, just getting things created in the game, and then you can go back and put features in. Especially when they seem like they're so far behind already, it makes me question their priorities a little bit. But in a vacuum, climbing looks cool.
Yeah, I can see the negative side of that for sure, where now they have to design every single thing in the game around, is this climbable, not climbable? How do we balance this? When you're designing a zone, how the architecture is going to be. Now, instead of just running around on paths or NPC camps or mob camps, density, all that stuff, you're like, oh shit, they're supposed to climb here. Now, do we have to go back and change things? And I could see that process over and over and over really slowing down, over the course of time.
And they brought up the point of the climbing, where what happens when you're on a wall and an NPC aggroes? What happens? Do you get knocked off? What if they don't have ranged attacks? So by having the climbing, they've now introduced a whole slew of additional concerns and things they're going to have to, fix, through coding or whatever. Again, what do you do about your pets? Do they stay below? Do they warp up? Do you have to, just dismiss your pet, climb up, and then resummon it again? I mean, you introduce one thing, and now you've got 9 other things you have to be worried about.
It's a whole new can of worms that potentially really didn't need to be there, but it is. Like I said, it's a cool feature and it looks neat. So that takes us to our next thing, which was also shown in the co-stream and then other developer streams, was they have changed a lot of the spell graphics. Kino, what do you think?
I don't pay much attention to spell graphics, frankly.
Really? Oh man. I I appreciate the fact that they've redone them. I think they look better. I'm also noticing that they are becoming more iconic to the individual classes. So paladin spells are looking different than cleric spells that are looking different than shaman spells. EQ1, a lot of spells share the same, animations. They share the same particles and that sort of thing. Now you're going to be able to identify what spell was cast by how it looks. And I appreciate the fact that they're going to be visually different.
Yeah.
Now, will I care about that a month after the game starts? Probably not. But it's still kind of a nice little feature. Yeah, I'm messing around in Guild Wars 2 right now, and what I'm seeing is, or experiencing is, an overwhelming amount of particles everywhere. And it just becomes a bunch of visual noise. And I worry about that type of thing, coming into Pantheon. Too many spells, too many different graphics piling on top of each other, and it all looks like mush.
Yeah, it's all
I'll,
clutter.
I'll backtrack and say that's a couple of great points, and I agree with both of them. I think the spell effects as an indicator are excellent. That's really good. So hey, that mob just got a strength debuff, or that heal over time just landed, or this dude's casting a chain lightning or whatnot. I think that's really cool and also really important because it will reward people for paying attention visually and not just like having their hand held about what's going on. Fear about clutter and particle effect noise is absolutely valid as well.
Speaking of noise, I think that's another good separator too with these spell graphics. Is you could tell when the shaman was casting his heal, you'd hear that like drench sound, the water sound, which was great. That's another big thing because sometimes you don't have to see it, especially if you're panned away from the casting of the spells and the graphics going off. But you could hear it in the background. It's like, oh, that happened, but I didn't need to see it.
Yeah, so you've got now multiple routes multiple avenues that are telegraphing information to you. So you're not wholly dependent upon one single thing to tell you what's going on. And I really like that fact. So I can visually pay attention to other things going around me. Auditorily, I can still be paying attention to what's going on.
I would say that some of the graphics are a little bit too on the nose to me, if you will, like a shield icon for an armor class buff or a bull head icon for a strength buff is a little bit just too unoriginal, but that's pretty minor.
Yeah, I get
I
that too.
I am concerned about some of the shaman spell effects because they all take place at floor level. Um, and depending upon what type of terrain you're on, some of those things could disappear into the terrain. Let's say you're in grass or, something that has ground cover.
Too
Too
many
much of the stuff,
fronds?
too many fronds, to me it's not. I would rather see stuff happening, mid torso, maybe around the head sort of thing. But again, it's something I'm gonna have to experience more in game.
Very true. Speaking of in-game and doing these spells and casting in the streams, we got to really see Amber Fate, the updated version now, and we've seen a bajillion times Black Rose Keep. So those are two kind of their staple dungeons. There's Halnir's Cave, but it really hasn't seen the polish that we know of these other two dungeons. And so that goes into the dungeon design, and I was actually surprised that basically that climbing allowed that vertical aspect, because Black Rose Keep has that vertical aspect as well without climbing, which is just done in a different way. And it shows not only the depth of the dungeon, but also, the different pockets of the zone for levels. So you could be level 15 in one spot and level 30 in another. What do you guys think about that?
Well, so if you compare Amber Fate to Black Rose Keep makes sense to have staircases and ramps because it's a building, You expect to see those things in a castle. Amber Fate being a ginormous cavern, you wouldn't expect to see that many staircases everywhere. There would be natural, outcroppings and sheer things that you could climb. I really like verticality in zones. I don't like them to be just flat in a plane. One of my favorite dungeons from EQ1 was Runny Eye, because of that. Everything was stacked on top of each other. There's like 5 levels deep or whatever, and because you were stacked that close to other people, you heard what was going around you. And key memory was going into that zone for the first time, and you hear off in the distance all of the noise of battle going on, and you've never been there before, and you were wondering, oh my god, what have I stepped into? So if you have a dungeon which is more vertical than horizontally spread out, you can build that level of anticipation and potentially terror by hearing those sounds echoing off the walls. I also like the fact that it forces you to engage more with your environment by having to look up and look down rather than just, left and right.
I think Amber Fate's a beautiful looking zone. There's a big part of me that really longs for the old EverQuest style dungeon that I just don't think we're going to get. The tunnel based dungeons of Lower Guck and Runny Eye and those types. We just felt so enclosed and intimate with your environment and looking around corners, worrying if you're going to aggro something and wipe your whole group. I just don't get that feeling in Amber Fate. It's like it's an outdoor zone, but we're calling it a dungeon.
Yeah, because the roof line is so far up. I mean, it's got great volumetrics, but I'm like you, I don't feel like it's a cave or a real dungeon. It just feels like you're kind of outdoors and it's overcast.
Yeah, definitely, definitely understand that. I think though we're just probably getting the tip of the iceberg with what dungeons can be, because obviously they're not going to showcase a dungeon that they just did that has no climbing aspects because you're confined.
Right, of course.
I mean, the closest thing we've really seen of that right now is Halnir's Cave, where it still has some verticality because you can go down, you can go in, you can go up a little bit to different spots where like the spider named was and all that. But I definitely, yeah, Guck. Oh my God, Guck. If you aggroed too many frogs, dude, there was nowhere to go. And then especially the ghoul root, rip ghoul root.
So, Amber Fay kind of reminds me of when you went into Dragon Necropolis. You started off and it's a big, vast, open cavern, but then much further back, you start getting into those tighter tunnels, and everything goes down deeper and deeper. It may very well be that once you get past that, the dwarf fortress area in Amberfey, it may turn into more, tight tunnels and that sort of thing. Or there could be other sections that are much tighter tunnels. We haven't just seen that much of that dungeon, so I'm hoping to see other tighter, twistier locations. What I liked about Lower Guck was, the enclosed nature of it. You felt the weight of the world above you. You felt, and intrinsically you felt, that I am so far away from safety. If stuff hits the fan, I have no way to escape, and I like that feeling.
I agree. I think there's not just a semantic difference between being far into a zone and the feeling of being deep in a zone. If you're far into it, sure, you got to run. But if you're deep, that's like, Mines of Moria, Balrog, oh crap.
Yeah, how many corners do you have today? Do you remember, the route going backwards? In, let's say, Lower Guck from, Frenzy or Ghoul Lord. I mean, yeah, you can remember it in your head getting there, but do you remember the run backwards?
That's when you range your gate.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I do love the outdoor dungeon concept, like Kazakh Thule and some of the other ones. You can even consider some of the planes in EverQuest to be outdoor dungeons. So I don't have a problem with that in and of itself. And I get that they're using this one strategically and intelligently to show off um, climbing for starters. But I do still hope we see some really more nitty gritty, like dungeon crawl experiences.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of episode 3. Loading, please wait. We will be covering 4 more topics and a little extra stuff in part 2. That'll be coming shortly, hopefully in the next couple days. Thanks for listening and or watching.